she did a water birth thing, and they have you they fill the tub. So like they get us into the room, go for that whole process, and she didn't even get into the tub before it was like, baby's here, we got to go. So like they didn't have a chance to even like get the room fully ready on the second one, but which was completely the opposite from the first one.
I hope it's like that.
Yeah. So that's why I was not in a rush. You know what I mean? I don't think you should feel like you need to be in a rush. That's the part that I disagree with, is like the first one is going to take forever, no matter what you do. Like, because the body, like the human body has not done it before. So it's like figuring it out. And it is not going to feel slow until it doesn't, depending on how many drugs your partner wants to take. So
yeah, she's going to be
yeah, I
taking...
don't think it's going to feel that slow in that case. I think you're going to be acutely aware of the passage of, yeah. I think you're going to be acutely aware of what's happening.
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
To the extent that the partner can be. Yeah. I'm not trying to like suggest that like the partner has like high empathy in this situation. It's just that.
Oh, I think she's good. You know, my fiance is like 10 jokes a minute. One of them lands kind of person. So she's actually quite funny, but like most of the stuff that she says isn't all that funny. So it's going to be interesting to see how she shifts when she's, going through quite a lot. You know, she's good with her workouts. She's good, very, determined person. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how she takes it. I think she should be fine. It needs to be smooth sailing.
Yeah. It's going to be, I'm just commenting on it. It's going to feel fast, slow, like that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, but then also like humans are like amazing. Things that you did not think that you would be able to do, you'll just do.
Did I tell you that I'm catching? So I've got that job to do on the day, if today is the day.
It'll be fun. Catch,
Yeah.
you can cut the cord, do all that stuff.
Mm.
My wife did a clinical rotation in Tanzania when she was in school and in labor and delivery. And the women would literally walk into the hospital, like sometimes 5 to 10 miles, drop a baby, walk back home. Like, that was how it went. It was kind of wild. And just like, yeah, walk home afterwards. So talk about the human body being amazing. I think there's like you've got like this, a lot of like what we're capable of dealing with comes down to expectations. Like, how do you expect it to be? Do you look at this as like, this is the worst thing I've ever done, I'm not going to be able to survive this? Or do you look at it as like, this is just completely normal? And I think how you expect that thing to go dictates a lot of how it actually does go. And then you see like in a case like that, and there's no meds or anything in that context. Like they're just like having a baby, walking back home, which I think is kind of wild from my perspective, but it's totally normal in a lot of parts of the world. So yeah.
Right. That was what our conversations was like, a lot of the pain has to be expected pain. I'm not sure about you guys, but like, I feel like I respond to expected pain a lot differently than surprising pain. Like I used to do Muay Thai, and obviously, when you work out, you experience some amount of like small amount of pain, but like the pain that you feel when you're expecting to feel some pain is kind of like registered differently than when it's like, I don't know, you burn your hand on a cast iron or something, then that's like, oh, I've done something wrong, I need to stop. Right. So expected pain. And
yeah. Speaking of expected pain, what do we want to talk about today?
Well, I've got a couple of things. I mean, I guess this is maybe not a very good topic for the podcast, but on the topic of changing the name for the podcast, I wanted to know what you guys thought about a few names. Obviously, we talked to the operators. They're down to do the funny thing for if we do decide to do a name change. I think that one name that could be quite broad umbrella and appealing to like a large group of people would be selling software or something to that effect. Broaden out to software, and then something about the the whole process piece, the go to market, and getting to the point where people are buying, right? People are using it. But yeah, keen to hear what you guys think, because I know we had Past Zero before, and I'm still happy with that name or keeping the name. But yeah, I was thinking selling software. I'm not sure if I told you guys, I got booked on Starter Story to talk about Profit, which is like this massive podcast that got acquired by HubSpot. And I don't know, there's something about that name, Starter Story, that I think is a really good brand. People can see that and instantly recognize it as, this is a podcast about getting it started. And I mean, I know a lot of our guests are not getting started startups, but like not just getting started and getting their first customers. But you know, that's going to be part of the audience, right?
I mean, the selling software, I guess it's kind of a play on like literally like the customer acquisition side of things, potentially like talking about some of those things. The company acquisition side of things, talking about what that looks like. It could be like pitching what you have, like looking at getting investment. You're selling your software concept to investors. I think I understand that, or I think that can kind of touch on a bunch of different things. I do think the question though is like, are we? I think what we talked about previously was basically this idea of why the Beyond Zero thing worked. This idea of getting to the point where we're interviewing people that are more like I'll call it like a Series A level plus.
I feel like the thing that I gravitate to is like, how do you go from 1 to 100?
Mm-hmm.
Past 100, there's like thousands of podcasts, like, you know, like 20 VC and like all of the traditional VC podcasts. They're all interviewing people who are over 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first million is like literally my first million and like small business and things like that, even though they basically are now interviewing the past 100 million people, and they like will talk about the 0 to 1, but they don't actually talk to people about it. But also like the problem is like when you're going 0 to 1, there's just like not that much interesting stuff happening. It's like either you have a product or you don't. You know what I mean? Like there's like not a lot to talk about. 1 to 100 is really effing hard. Yeah, and that feels like who we talk to. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like these people are like trying to figure out what do I do now that I've hit 1 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 50. Like Judge Me's at 15 and I'm like, what are you going to do now? Like you know, like that type of thing. Yeah.
That is interesting because these are like not the silly problems, right? The silly problems happen at 0 to 1, right?
Yeah.
You know, the sort of conversation you have and you go, oh, right, like there is an answer to this question. You just haven't found it out yet. But yeah, you know, 1 to 100. I like the name, just 1 to 100. I don't know if that would all be words. Maybe it's a little long. But yeah, I think that it as a conversation topic is, and to frame the brand name around is a good idea.
I searched this as we're talking about it. There is a podcast called 1 to 1000.
Man, they went further than us.
Only has like 10 episodes. They had a season 2 coming soon in 2023, and I'm assuming that didn't happen. And then let's see, it said something about Claude said something about a spinoff. 1 to 100 hypergrowth startups were joining.
Something about that, what you just said, hypergrowth startups. I think that is what people are looking for in terms of signal. It's like, who is building a business right now, whether they built it, you know, like Triple Whale a while ago and they're reacting to the current environment, or they built something right now and it's growing like wildfire, right? People are really interested in, I should say, the wider audience that want to build something meaningful. I feel like that's what they're looking for. And the name should kind of, well, maybe it should capture that, right? How to do something meaningful right now.
Yeah, it's called 1 to 100 hypergrowth startups worth joining. I don't know. And this looks like it ended in 2024. There's nothing recent either.
We can probably go async with this one.
But I like something in the 1 to 100-ish territory. I mean, I didn't think about it until now, but that feels like what we are talking about.
Right.
So.
It's very tangible too. The idea of like $1 million is very like there's a class of people that are like, I've made it, I've reached 1 million. And then once you get there, you're like, okay, well, what's the next step? And it doesn't necessarily have to be chasing 100 million either, but I think the in between there's a lot there.
We chuck this into Claude and we play on that idea async, and I think we'll come up.
Wait, I have a silly idea. What about this? The Adolescent Software Company.
I missed that. What did you say?
The adolescent, like not yet an adult, but you're not a baby, so you're like, I don't know if like but if someone said like this is like like the Adolescent Software Company, or like the adolescent years of software building.
I mean, I like the idea. Pulling on the thread, teenage software, I don't know. We have to.
That's why I like adolescent. Is it like
right?
it doesn't have like weird. I feel like teenage has like something strange about it that it's just like emo. Like
Yeah,
teenagers are basically emo.
90s American Pie vibes.
Yeah. But that was actually
Apparently
the first thing that came through.
Oh, Dario has a.
I know, the adolescence of software. That's why I thought about it. That's why I actually think it will have some it will have some Halo resonance.
What can we do?
Yeah, it's a great essay, by the way, the adolescence of software.
On the topic of essays, what can we do?
That's why I think saying like building the adolescent software company will have some resonance, because it'll, for those who have read the adolescence of software, it'll harken back to that too.
To give you guys, I guess, an idea of when we land on this, what I'd like to do is get a website up, get a community going, and then build as much of a cult as we can get going as possible. I think, referring to the essay, some essays like, techno optimist, it makes me think, what can we do that allows us to foster a cult without getting political or like opinionated about things that aren't software, right? Just something to, I guess, think about in terms of their name. It's like we want a name that really expresses what this is and what the conversations are in a very attractive way to click, but then also, what has that cult-like ability for people to want to join and be a part of the group, right? Like they feel aligned, right?
Have you guys looked into the TBPN acquisition at all? I didn't. I saw the headline, but I haven't actually looked into it.
I saw it and then I opened the video, and then there was like a few minute wait period. I tried to drag the video to see when they announced it, and I was like, oh, it's taking too long. But yeah, OpenAI.
That's funny.
But it was OpenAI, right? Do you know how much the sale was? How much they bought it for?
I saw $1 billion for the headline, but I don't think that's
No.
true. I think that's a joke.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's for sure a joke, dude. There's no way. I mean, like I would expect that. I mean, what did the Hustle get bought for? 40 million, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that wasn't cash. That was
stock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my guess is this is like $100 million OpenAI stock transaction. That's like the realistic number, because like my guess is like on a sponsorship run rate basis, they were like making, I don't know, 10 to 20 million a year.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody's saying it estimated in the low hundreds of millions was the deal.
It's not a bad outcome for a podcast. Getting snatched up. All right. Did you guys see Sean from Operators saying, if anyone, I think it was Facebook or something.
Oh wait, maybe that's where I saw the $1 billion number. May have just been a shot tweet.
Okay. I have an actual topic. Dude, this week my mind has gotten boggled with Jack's essay and then the Harvey guy's essay. Have you guys read either of these? If not, I'll give you the TLDR.
Yeah, what's the... Wait, Harvey. I think I saw this one. Harvey who?
Gabe. No. Gabe's essay. Like Gabe Pereira from Harvey.
Oh,
AI.
Okay. Yeah.
Like basically the TLDR is they were talking about org structures and how org structures are evolving now that you have AI. And like Jack Dorsey wrote this essay about how he thinks like the conventional hierarchical org structure no longer makes sense. And then he like gives the historical context of where hierarchy even came from. So like corporations took it from the military. And so like hierarchies evolved in the military thousands of years ago because you needed a way for information to flow across the army. So then they would go like up and down and up and down. And then the number of people who reported to a given person was designed such that it was like an iterative process to the best information flow trade-off, basically. Like how many people can someone reasonably communicate with, so on and so forth. And then he basically says, given that that's where hierarchy came from, like reporting lines follow communication lines, which by the way, that's how I was taught management. Like I was literally, I used to say this in my company at LiveRamp and then at Fermat, which is like when people would ask me what was the logic for an org change, I would be like, well, I need reporting lines to follow communication lines because the entire purpose of hierarchy is communication, information flow, context. And this essay correctly, in my mind, argues that information and context has now become available to everyone instantly at the same time. So what's the purpose of a hierarchy? And then it provokes this question of like, okay, then what are the new jobs given that information flow is not one of the jobs? And then it basically says like there's 3-ish jobs, right? One is how do you make good decisions based on having access to that information? And how do you like make sure there's good feedback loops? How do you have like player coaches who show people what good interaction with that information looks like? And then I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, like ideas of like who is the proponent of like what is this company like who are the people who are the proponents of what this company stands for, and therefore like what is in scope and not in scope, right? I think it's like roughly those 3 roles. So it's like people who are doing things based on the interaction with the information, people who are showing other people how to do things based on interaction with the information, and then people who are deciding like how to steer this organizational thing. And it's just very different than a hierarchy. Like, first of all, it means you don't need as many management layers by definition. Um, but yeah, it's and then the Harvey CEO released an article that, I mean, it's just like very badly named. It was like Agents for Legal or something like that. But the article has nothing to do with Agents for Legal. It has to do with org design. So I don't know why he named it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Massive SEO play.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? But I have been like struggling with this a lot inside my company because we've like switched to a totally flat structure, and like people are now asking me like, what does that mean? Who reports to who? And I was like, everybody on go-to-market reports to me. Everybody on engineering reports to Shreyas. Basically, I was like, it's like we're like a super flat. It's like 60 people, super flat or whatever, right? Um, in broad strokes, that's like what it is, um, and then it like makes people uncomfortable and like, what does it mean? And this article creates some amount of structure to the idea that at least I know I have been interacting with, and that has been provoked for me in our context at least. And I'm just wondering how you guys have thought about org structure and hierarchy, uh, yeah, in your context.
It's an interesting question. Real quick on that before I get into my thoughts. You're talking about it being flat with you and Shreyas. What's the what is the like how did that look previously? How did you switch to make it that way? And then I think that the last piece of that too is like how do you actually manage that? Like are you actually managing performance reviews of all these people? I assume not, but like what does that look like in that context to be able to understand is somebody actually doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in their job?
Okay, so this is where the information thing matters a lot, because the way that you would previously performance manage is like a manager would know what a person on the team is doing. At our company, everyone knows how everyone is doing. It's like, yeah, it's like astonishingly transparent. It's very obvious to everyone how everyone is doing. And it's not because we're like doing anything like crazy. It's just because all output is public. And we have made it very public so that way our agents can interact with it and learn from it, right? For our internal operations. And so you can just ask any question and you can figure out what people are doing. So that part has become trivial almost. In practice, yeah, what we said is like there were people who were previously managing. So like we had like someone like managing salespeople, someone managing account managers, someone managing, like we had individual team leads and in engineering, and there were like, each team worked on a different part of the system or a different product, and we just took all of those people who were managers and made them ICs, and then now everyone reports into either our like eng lead, me, or Shreyas. Basically, is what it has boiled down to.
In that context, is there, because I think also part of the reason for these hierarchies and management is the idea that you can take people and help level them up. And so you have, especially like in a context where you have junior people, people that have been there, who are like more mid-career, senior people, whatever that is. Is that something you're thinking about at all in this context? No, it's just seniors. Like you are, is that what that looks like? Like either you are able to contribute by yourself as a strong IC or you don't have a role.
Correct. Yeah. So we have, in conjunction with this, shifted performance expectations and said like either you can operate or you can't. And the big problem is, you're exactly right. You used to take people who were great at something and ask them to teach other people, and that was a big important job of management, especially on engineering. But what has happened is the output delta between your best engineers and your medium to not good engineers is no longer 30%. Like, you used to be constrained in time by how much you could output, but now you're constrained in creativity, which means that your best engineers are like producing 10x the output of your like bottom engineers. And so by having them manage that person, your organizational output goes down a huge amount. And the job of the organization is to produce output for the organization. Like, the job of the organization, I hate to break it to people, it's like the job of the organization is not to like worry about any given person's career. It's to worry about the company. And in the context of worrying about the company, if you can improve people's careers, then that's amazing. But I can't have, like, let's just take the most naive version. One person manages 4 people. That person's output has 10x. These people's output has 2x. It is better to just remove all 4 people and have that person not manage anyone. Right? And so that's the kerfuffle. And so then you have to shift your org structure.
It's such an interesting thing because I mean, I feel the same thing in terms of like we're just not going to hire junior people. I mean, I don't know if that will never happen, but certainly I don't see a path in the near term to hiring somebody junior because we're not in a place as a business where we can. I mean, it's what you're describing. Like you basically have to use up a bunch of time from somebody to train that person, and that just is not a cost we can bear ultimately. Like the market is too the demands that and what they expect from our company is too high for us to be able to afford to do that. And I think I know that's true for us. It sounds like it's true for you. It's gotta be true for most businesses, at least at the scale that we're at now, right? I mean, you and I are similar size in terms of headcount. I don't know if that changes when you have 1,000 employees, but probably depends a lot on what you're doing, right? But I think there's
No,
like a
clearly not, because how
you're
big
right,
was
'cause there's
Block, right? I
yeah,
don't
it
know how.
was 10,000 people and they let go of 4,000, I think, right? So, I mean, it's just like it's interesting though because I do think about like the one thing I really struggle with is like what are the cascading effects of these things where it's like you and me, we can't really control what happens. Like our businesses either live or die based on our willingness to get on board and to do these things. Like that's not an option, really. There's a lot of things that happen. I think this is something that people underestimate of CEOs too. There's this idea that like, well, you're the CEO, you're in charge. Well, it's like kind of, but also like there's so many constraints that exist that you have to operate within those constraints or you don't get the right to run a business. Like that's what happens. Like if you are struggling
Yeah,
financially,
exactly.
you have to find cuts. And if you can't find cuts on these certain things, then that means headcount. There's no other way around that, right? If the entire market is moving 4 times as fast, you have to move 4 times as fast too, or you don't get to exist. Like there's just those things where like I don't have the right to be like, I mean, I'm somebody who doesn't.
The
I actually
CEO
don't.
has more bosses than everyone else in the company.
Yeah.
Everyone else in the company has one boss.
Yeah.
We have the market, the customer, the board member, the investor, the co-founder, like,
This is such a good point. right? You have to
Yeah.
satisfy the market. And like Jeremiah, the example I used to like to give to people who had this like vague idea of profit, like I hang around with a lot of like hippies, right? Like beach bum surfer type people. And then they get like ideas about the world, which are very lovely and fun. And, you know, who cares? We don't need to talk. We don't have serious conversations. But one of the things that I like to walk through with people on the topic of profit when they have a negative connotation of it is that your body needs to consume more resources than it uses, right? You have a base rate, a caloric burn that your body requires to run. If you don't eat enough, right? If you don't destroy other things and turn that into energy, you die. You can't operate in an unprofitable state with your own body. And the same thing with you were saying if the market's moving faster, right? If you take us back to like I don't know, our ancestral evolutionary history, right? If everything around you that you wanted to eat and destroy and turn into energy was moving faster, you're going to die. You're not going to keep up, right? You need to be able to adapt to the environment that you're in, right? So, yeah, this idea that you know that's avoidable somehow, right? It's lovely, but it's not real.
There's a lot of ways in which I wish the world operated differently, but I have to operate within the constraints of how the world operates. So it's just like I mean, like when it comes to AI, I am not really like if you talk about artificial general intelligence and that concept and like that could come in the future, I don't like that idea actually. I would prefer that did not happen. But if it's going to happen, I'm going to make sure that I am as prepared as possible for it and that the people who work for me, my family, all those things are as prepared as possible for that sort of outcome. So I think that's the thing that people miss a lot of times. And you can sit here and be like, okay, well, I feel like we shouldn't do it this way because like this just doesn't feel good compared to the way I used to do things in the past. And I think you can empathize with that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but we still have to change because if we don't change, we die. And I think it's just a constant struggle. So anyway, sorry, I kind of derailed a little bit from your initial point, but I think this is the thing that is, that is so hard for people within our companies to understand. And I don't know how to kind of get through some of that. You talk about like the hierarchy change and how all those things have to shift. Like it has to shift pretty dramatically. But it's also a hard process.
One thing hierarchy used to do is used to like propagate a message through the organization. So let's just take let's just like talk about this exact thing. It's like, hey, the expectations are changing. What we need to do is changing. Probably more than ever, like you, Jeremiah, as the CEO founder, you are saying that more than other people in the company, directly to everyone in the company, right? Like what town hall, Slack, like what are you doing?
Yeah, mix of things. Yeah, town halls, like posts, individual conversations, good amount of like one-on-one coaching with people to be like, hey, here's the thing we're doing. Like, can you like, how do we get you to do this thing? Literally showing people too, and like, because we have an internal tool that we use for trying to, as much as possible, answer the questions we have in the context of our business. And so, you know, when I see somebody drop a question into Slack for a teammate that should just be answered by this tool, I'll go in and be like, hey, you know, and I'll just ask the tool the question. And people still are, and this is not a knock on people. There's like a real change that goes into the way you think. So I'm not trying to complain, but ultimately like that, I feel like those kinds of things are part of my job is to just like, anytime I see something like that, try to give an example of how it should be done differently.
I'll be
So
right
I have
back, guys. I'm gonna go have a baby. Catch you in a bit. See you.
Okay. Good luck. All right.
Catch you in a
Bye.
bit.
Nice. Well, there we go.
Whoa.
I guess he's off. Is he planning on? He didn't sign off. So is he planning on joining from the car?
It'll no. I mean, the recording thing will figure itself out. But that's amazing. Wow. So what you're describing is modeling. So I've been talking about this with my coach because I'm trying to figure out how to communicate this idea to the rest of the company. And here's like a framework that I have started to play with in order to help people understand how to interact with it. We went from hierarchy to founder mode to this new thing. Founder mode was required because the world was starting to change really fast. but the tools had not yet caught up for other people to be able to have the context. So things are changing fast, but context still lived with the founder CEO. So now you're in this shitty situation where you have no choice but to be founder mode. Okay. Whatever caveats and like feelings you have about that phrase set aside, lots of companies had founders get really in the weeds because you're in a moment of high change, and somehow the context only lived with one person because information was not freely available. Over the last 6 months, information is freely available. That is the next big shift that has happened. And so now more than the founder can be founder mode. Like there are people all over the company who have the information, the same information as the founder or the CEO. And now we're like, shit, this is true. So your little internal tool that you're describing, you're like, dude, you can just do it. Let me show you. And so now what's happening is in real time, because it's not like we knew this beforehand. We're figuring it out in real time. Like we figured out, like this tool is probably less than 3 months old, right?
Yeah. I think we're like customer number 3 or something, and we've been using it for like 2 months.
Exactly. Okay, great. Perfect. And so the reason you're having to show people in real time, you used to be able to do this thing in hierarchy world where you could mentor or teach. Okay, so like I'm going to use these. The framework I have is mentor, teach, coach, model. And you could mentor or teach when you have previously done the thing for a long period of time. So mentorship is like someone who is like 10 years ahead of you. You're like, hey, what did you do when you did this? And they tell you their story. You learn something from it. You apply it to your circumstance. No one 10 years ahead of you had this. Okay, so there's no mentoring. Teaching is I learned it previously. I'm going to teach you. Actually, no, I did not learn it previously. I'm literally learning it with you. Coaching you can still do, which is like asking questions and getting the other person to think. And modeling is now the thing that we have to rely on because we are learning it at the same time as you are learning it. And all I'm trying to do is show you that we can just learn this right now and just to do it.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because I think about, I mean, we grew more slowly than you, headcount wise and all that. And so, when I started out, it was like 2 of us working on this, and it grows over time. And so somebody comes in and I know all the answers in theory, but actually I usually don't. Like there's like half of things I do know, the other half I don't know. And so, people would ask me questions, especially when it's something like, how does Klaviyo do this? I'm like, and so sometimes if I was feeling extra spicy, I'd go to Google and type it in and take a screenshot and just drop it in there. Like, I don't know. Not
But the problem is there is a set of things that you know.
Yes, and
Or
people
used to be.
Yeah, and people don't know which is which is fair, right? And so now though, you can
Now
just
you don't know anything.
Yeah, now I don't know anything.
Exactly. This is the key. And neither do I, by the way, right? My point is like, because the world is changing so fast, the bucket of what do we know has become zero. And the bucket of how are we getting new information is available to everyone.
It is interesting. It is like, and I think part of the struggle is that, like, if you are used to, like, as a founder, I'm sure this is your experience too, I am used to not knowing and operating with the idea that, like, whatever I show up to do in my work today is going to be something I didn't know yesterday and maybe have never been aware of in the past. Like, it's completely new. And so and I'm comfortable making decisions in that context too, because that's just how it is. And I think part of the challenge for a lot of people is we're basically asking employees who haven't done that before to also do that, where you're learning on the fly and you don't even know who to ask for the things. And now you got to take that information and do something with it. And I think that actually is a very challenging thing to do if you haven't done that before. And I don't know how much of that is like some people are just okay with more ambiguity and some people need more structure, or like how much of it is kind of like a nature versus nurture sort of thing. Like I don't know for myself how much of this did I learn by just doing it and how much of it is just my natural instinct and the way that I like to operate.
Well, it's got to be almost certainly all nurture, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to get into like a big discussion about like education systems and all this other trash that like we do to ourselves, but kids just learn through modeling and doing. so, so, so like I feel pretty sure we're all capable, and then it just gets beaten out of us.
Yeah,
Um,
which is a good thing then, because it means that most of us are going to be able to adapt to a different way of operating.
yeah, I think that's why a lot of company. Okay, so now going to the org structure point, and then I want to talk about types of people in a second as well. But going to the org structure point, I think that actually is why hierarchy can't work the way that it used to anymore, because you used to have people who could teach or mentor or like help people get better by disseminating knowledge and information. But both knowledge is now like not that particularly useful, and information is globally available. And so now what you need is more player coaches, like modeling. And so it's more like I can't be a coach without being a player, because otherwise how the hell am I going to know what I'm supposed to even say or like you and I don't like literally don't know what is possible until we like try it and do it. And they're like, what do you know? Like, this is how we should do it now. And you just need those types of people. So you need those player coaches to show other people that they can do that thing. And there's going to be a set of people who are ahead of others, and that those are the people who are your new leaders. Um, and I don't think they look the same as your old leaders, potentially. Maybe some are, some are not. But I also think that this is why a lot of companies have this idea of like a barbell, where it's like people who can use experience to ask good questions. This is like, you've been a founder for a pretty long period of time, but you're comfortable showing up in the morning, not knowing anything and just figuring it out. And then the other side of the barbell is people who are fresh out of college, who have no priors on how companies are supposed to work. And so then they don't have that baggage.
Yeah, it's interesting. Uh, this is a good topic because I didn't fully answer your question. I haven't actually thought about the org structure stuff too much, mostly because we have a fairly flat structure as it is. But I think
Really? On both sides?
it's usually like one layer away from me, most of these things. And then some things are two. So like customer support, for example, is 2 layers away. But most of the things are basically like one layer away from me. Like there's a leader of that function, and the people report directly into them. So but in that, anyway, the point though that I was going to get to there is that what's interesting is I think the leaders that I have in place are actually really good at this kind of like player coach sort of thing, like, or not coach. I said the wrong thing here. But the actual like the showing,
Modeling.
the
Yeah,
modeling.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like they're actually really good at that. And I think that's been what we've found, is that naturally that's how we've been focusing for the last few months, is on the modeling. It just kind of has naturally shifted to that. So in many cases, we're doing a lot more of that. I think we can still do a better job. I've even thought about the idea of bringing somebody in who just does that. Like, would it make sense to have somebody who comes in and literally their role is just sit down with people and be like, hey, what are you working on? And can I help you dig into this more? And literally the only thing that they do is figure out how to help somebody better use AI in the context of their work. And that's that person's entire job. Just because when we do have these people who are leading functions, they have other responsibilities, and it's hard for them to spend all of their time doing that. But so I don't know the right answer to those things, but it is interesting. I haven't thought too much about the actual like changing of org structure. But I do think that we are just really leaning into the modeling piece.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think for us, it's potentially a little bit more I don't know. Yeah. Don't you think it makes you question though? Like things like, should this person be spending time doing one-on-one? Like, let me give you the prototypical example. An engineering manager who used to be your best IC, who became like a manager or director or whatever you call it. And now they're spending all their time in one-on-ones trying to like like you were describing, get people better. Why not just have that whole team flatten, no managers, everyone directly reports to you? Yeah. And then that person just goes ham because they're a killer. And actually, that would enable them to be a better modeler. Because right now, what they're modeling is constrained by the fact that they have management responsibilities.
I think, in general, I would say I don't think I am as fast to move on some of these things as you are.
Well, no. I understand. By the way, I'm saying every company
Yeah,
is going to react differently to this, right?
totally.
And
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that's exactly why it's so provocative, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reality is I haven't thought about it that way a whole lot. I will say, generally speaking, I look at things in a couple of ways. One, we have the future is uncertain. And so I think there's like two different ways that you can, well, there's no more than two, but the extremes of an uncertain future are I am going to do nothing because I don't know what the future looks like. I'm just going to keep business as usual.
Close my
Let's just talk
eyes.
about like the idea that AI could be a bubble is actually like totally plausible. This idea that there's
Yeah,
so
Apple.
much. What's that?
Apple's a good example. I'm just going to
Yeah,
close my eyes and wait. Yeah.
yeah, and I think well, anyway, there's a world in which like if I go to my team and say, and obviously I'm doing this like pushing people and using AI, there is a chance that in 2 years, the things that we all thought were possible with AI just don't really come true. The costs skyrocket. I mean, even now we see Claude struggling a little bit with usage and all that. And if everybody actually jumps on board and the technology can't keep up, we end up in a spot a couple of years from now potentially where it's just like not as useful as we thought it would be. And there's a question of how much impact that actually has on the business. I actually still think we're a net positive by trying to use the tools, but you could make the case that we don't know enough to say that AI is going to actually have the impact that we think it's going to have as of today, right? So that's like one angle, and I think there's a lot of companies actually still on that kind of trajectory. They're being patient, they're taking it slow, and is that going to be good or bad? I have no idea. And then you've got the extreme where it's like we're changing everything, we're throwing away. Like actually, I don't want to call him extreme, but I think Stuart Revo has done such a good job of looking at like, here's where the future is going. We're going to completely transform the way that we do our work, and we're going to go all in on that. And we've got 2 engineers shipping 100 updates in 3 months. Him being one of the engineers, I believe, is the structure there. I might be wrong, but it's like almost no engineers, and in the past you would have been able to ship 10 updates maybe, and you're literally doing 10 times what you would have been able to do. um, and so that's like the other end of the extreme, and I think you're more on that side of it. um, I'm a little bit more in the middle of like, okay, I don't know what the future looks like. I very much believe that the future looks very different than today, and so I look at it in terms of how can I push my teams there, but also understand that some people need a little bit more time than others to catch up. And I don't know how, I still haven't figured out like, what does that look like? But it looks like a lot of coaching and modeling right now, to try to get people to where I think they need to be. And trying to be, I kind of look at it as like, I don't actually want to be at the very end of that bell curve. I want to be on the front end of innovation, but not necessarily leading the pack, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of how I think about it. And I don't know if that's good or bad, to be honest, but I think it's easier for our teams to adjust. But maybe I'm wrong. Time will tell.
There's like 2 anecdotes that we've previously talked about that are worth bringing up in this context. One is like Toby at Shopify is like shipping at an unprecedented rate,
Yep.
which is clearly modeling, right? I mean, what he's doing is he's showing people like, I have a day job and then I can do this.
Yeah.
Like same thing my co-founder does, by the way. And I think that there's some set of organizations that are going to like operate in that way where like someone is just going to pick up both roles and it's like, I'm going to be a full-time modeler and a full-time whatever day job is.
Yep.
And it reminds me, like you said something about like, the tools are so good right now. I just want to be building stuff all the time. And the question that it provokes for me is, let's just say you and I don't care what the org structure is, but there's that person who you promoted to manage other people and their internal dialogue is, I just want to build shit all the time. Now what's happening is your org structure is actually holding them back. And so like there's all of these provocations, and it's a relatable feeling because it's a feeling that you and I talk about, right? And so it's like that's like not a crazy feeling. Makes sense to me that you like feel like you're in this moment and you're like, I kind of don't want to manage. And like and part of me wonders, and this actually happened at our company where some of the EMs or EDs literally came to us and said, like in this moment, it doesn't make sense for me to manage anymore. Like
Yeah.
I need to be
That's
effing
actually
shit.
that's also really great self-awareness. Like that tells me a lot about that person, in a positive way, that they were willing to have that conversation. And maybe in your org that wouldn't feel risky, but in a lot of orgs that would feel like a risky thing to do.
And so I wonder if an in-between way of interacting with this is asking people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just feel like everything's being rewritten in like a very dramatic way right now. In some ways very dramatic, but in some ways it's like more human than ever. Like you can, because a lot of the non-human things are being automated, you can just interact with it in a more human way. So
Dude, it's actually really interesting. One of the things I've been, because I'm still trying to figure out these things for myself too. And so like one of the things that I was chatting with somebody the other day who was trying to basically, like, they felt like they were being replaced by the AI. And I was like, no, like think about it this way. If you had somebody who was junior to you, what would you ask them to do? And we're talking about a specific project. I told me, I was like, okay, well then ask the AI to do that. Like that's the that it's the like the that doesn't take away from you and your abilities and the things that you're great at. It actually is just enabling you to not think about this thing that you didn't even want to think about at all. And now the AI can do it instead. And you should review it. You should look at it, go through the documentation, all that kind of stuff, make sure it's actually what we need before we send that off to, in this case, Claude to go build it. But the point is, like, just treat it like you would if it was somebody who reported to you. Like, I think that's a framing that's been helping me with the people on my team, to just be like, just pretend that the machine is a person who reports to you, and give them all the things that you would give to somebody else. So, and you're almost like the CEO of your little function in that context.
yeah, it's funny. What I tell people is now I use AI to, like, I want to use AI to think for me as much as I possibly can. So literally anything that I'm supposed to do, I just ask Claude first if it can do it for me. So for example, I had my board meeting yesterday and I had to like send a board doc beforehand about like the strategy of the company. I like used Whisperflow to write down my initial thoughts. And then I said, hey Claude, can you look at my like last 3 board docs and make sure if what I said is reasonable or not? And look at the progress that's been made by looking in Slack and tell me if this is correct, and then compare progress, and then describe whether or not I did what I said I was going to do and whether I'm a reliable CEO. And I'm not joking. Like literally, that's how I wrote my board doc. Because I was like, I don't want to think about this. You know what I mean? I don't want to like go back and what I wrote last time, and like like how annoying. Um, and then I was like, okay, how would you like write this in a way in which is understandable to an investor who reads it once every quarter? Which in like an old world, what I would have done is like send it to one and ask for feedback and all that sort of shenanigan. Um, and as little thinking as I can do, I'm I am optimizing for.
Yeah. Okay. I do the same thing, but I do find the argument of outsourcing your thinking to AI will cause basically like atrophy in that ability.
No chance.
Well, so yeah, I want you to explain that a little bit more, because I think there's actually something interesting there, in that if you did no thinking, I think that would be the case. But I think for me, what I find is it just gives me capacity to think about other things. Um, but yeah, I don't know what your experience is or how you think about that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you are, it's like a calculator. If you're actually good at the thing, what it does is it just puts you further ahead in the journey of the work that you are trying to get done. That's the reality. I can do math without a calculator. but I'm going to use a calculator. I can write this document without AI, but I'm going to use AI. And then I can spend the rest of the time like, shit, what does this mean? What are the edges of information that I don't have anywhere? Who do I need to talk to? How do I need to understand it? What is the lived context? I would say it pushes my thinking, not restricts it,
I agree.
because it is impossible to like see the output and not be like, oh wow, I didn't real. First of all, it will find things that you did not realize. Okay, so which will by definition provoke questions, and then you have no choice but to interact with it. And so I think that you need to train people. Like people ask me this, a different version of the same question is, how much do you want your kids to use AI? And I'm like, a shitload. And they're like, well, then aren't they going to stop thinking? And I'm like, well, no, because like my 4-year-old's version of using AI is she's like creating a book. And it's like, yeah, so if she created the same book every night for 100 nights, then it doesn't help. But if she is learning that she can ask for anything and pushes her creativity and her creative, like she's now creating things that I would not have thought of. Okay, this kid's 4.
Yeah.
So she's like smarter than me on a dimension that was like, it's like not non-trivial to get ahead on. And I think that that's the thing that people don't understand is you can push yourself on dimensions and variables that were previously not possible. Yeah.
No, I think that's very true. I mean, I've been playing around with some of the data we have and how that interacts with macroeconomic indicators. And it's just like, it's really interesting because I can actually look at this in a way that wasn't possible to me previously because I just didn't have, it's not that I couldn't go learn how to do the math or do all the research or all those kinds of things. I know enough to be able to do that, but I don't have the time. I can't spend, weeks on these things. Both the AI, you can actually dig deeper on something and it can do the tasks for you and explain things to you. You can go back, fact check things, look at all this stuff, look at how these things actually interact. And now I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm learning how to be an economist here in a way that I didn't know previously. And obviously that's not true. I'm not an economist, but I think like I'm actually learning economic principles that I didn't know about previously, which is really compelling to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I like posted this thing on LinkedIn yesterday, which it turns out I phrased it in a bad way, but we do this like behavior analysis for like how people interact with your website, and we can like split it by channel or whatever. So we figured out the difference between people coming from Google feed ads versus meta feed ads. And it turns out that the total difference in number of products viewed is actually very small. So like Facebook, the average session views less than 1 product and Google views 1.5 products.
Okay.
And honestly, that surprised me because I was like, when you like cannot do this with AI and you're like trying to cut the data with like events and all this other crap, she like the thing that happens is like I was under the impression that people who came from Google did way more browsing than they do in reality. Like I thought people would look at least 3 or 4 products. And I was surprised. I was like, wow, this is like a way smaller lift than I was expecting given how high intent Google traffic is. And it's just like those sorts of insights are everywhere now.
Yeah. And I think that the other piece that's really interesting too is, so you get that data point and you find out it's not as interesting as you hoped. You can more quickly move to the next thing and try to evaluate that. Because that's what one of the things I really struggled with in the past was whenever I would do some sort of data analysis, I'd have a hypothesis about something. And usually it turns out to be a nothing thing, right? And it's just like, it takes so long to get to that point. And then to get to the next hypothesis takes more time. And it's just like, you can move through those things so much faster now. And there's a massive amount of value. I just realized we're over time, but.
All right, man. Hey, this is amazing. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks.
Let's hope everything for Jack. All right. Bye.